Well, we're in Nahum Chapter 2. I like Nahum Chapter 2. It does seem a bit like a filler episode. If it's a TV show, like you've got the one show and then you got because it's only 3 chapters, so you've got one show and then the next show, and this one seemed like it drew from the first chapter and it introed the third chapter. I don't know. That's probably not good to say about a chapter of scripture, but I did feel like it was a bit of a filler. I enjoyed the symmetry of the beginning and the end, which I saw some kind of 4 things at the beginning and the end, but I appreciated it. Wasn't super impactful for me personally. So I'm like, and I always look for that. I mean, you've said that. Like, I look for the kind of the life application, the pastoral side of things, and I didn't see a lot of that. I didn't see a lot of that here. So one of the things that I noticed at the beginning, which to me tied in at the end, was the first 4 kind of action words at the beginning in verse 1. Guard, watch, brace, marshal. Those are very action words. And then at the end, in verse 13, you've got the words burn up, devour, leave, and not heard. And it felt like he was being very poetic in his oracle, and just warning Nineveh, listen, you are on the wrong side. God is going to come and judge you no matter what, no matter how you guard, watch, brace, or marshal. God's not on your side. You're done. And I know that's simplistic, but again, that's sort of what I got from the particular chapter.
Sure.
I also thought it was interesting in verse 7, because I have a note here in my Bible, how the handmaidens or the slave girls were moaning like doves, and how that was their lamentation, that they were so very sad about everything that was happening. And I thought it was interesting because a lot of the passages refer to the rich people. I remember back when we were studying, which prophet was it that called all the really rich women cows? Was that Amos?
That was.
And I think it was Amos. And a lot of their messages are directed to the highborn, the rich. And this felt like Nahum was even talking to even the slave people. Even the slave people are going to be hurting. They're going to be suffering. Doesn't matter who you are in Nineveh, whether you're rich, whether you're noble, whether you're poor or a slave. These slave girls were upset. They were lamenting because the destruction's going to come to everybody. I thought that was interesting, only because several of the passages seem to be directed to specifically in Jerusalem, like the upper crust, the nobility, the leaders. And I just thought that was an interesting note as I was looking through, like, oh, he's even saying, listen, this destruction isn't just going to touch, the rich people. This is touching everybody. Only because I'm just used to them talking to the kings and the rich people, saying you are mistreating people. You have weights and measures that are unsteady. You're making money off people. You're squeezing them. And this is more saying everybody's going to be hurting. So, what kind of things did you notice?
Not about like you, but the things that jumped out to me was more of the imagery.
Okay.
The poetry, the how he really must have searched for words to describe the emotion of it all. It kind of almost, and it was almost like with the colors, which isn't like the colors of the warriors and the kind of remind me of Revelation when I talked about that.
Oh yeah, with the breastplates and all that. Yeah,
the breastplates and stuff, and it's just such rich poetry. And it's like he's not even trying to be poetic; he's just describing what's happening.
Yes.
he's being more
Yeah.
emotional than he is poetic, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And he's just finding the language that best describes it, I guess. That really struck me. And it's very hyperbolic. You know what I mean? As the prophets are. It's very hyperbolic language. So I don't know if he's overplaying it or not. But I wouldn't think he is. I think it's pretty accurate probably. But it's very hyperbolic language, which they're using to get your attention to how serious this is.
So the language is meant to shock you into pay attention
And to
this.
draw you in to this is the seriousness and the emotion of it all. And note that he speaks to coming to the rescue of Israel and restoring her, and like the treasure like has no end. Speaking to how rich Nineveh was, just as a city,
Right.
just how rich they really were, that he could literally just plunder that and give it to Israel, and they're good to go, as a nation. That's the kind of language. I mean, I don't know how hyperbolic he's being with that, and it's just like it doesn't matter what Nineveh does. Like it's the Lord's coming, and what's he say? They stumble, they fall. Like there's no holding this back. Again, with the language and the vivid, it's kind of like I want to call it like a straightforward poetry or just a straightforward emotional expression.
It's interesting that you say that.
Go ahead.
It's not like the poetry or the symbolism means something else. He's trying to describe this picture like the shields.
Straightforward, I think.
The shields and everything. Yes, it's very vivid, and he's trying to be vividly descriptive, but not metaphorical. It's not symbols for something else. He's trying to poetically
literally trying to describe it.
Yes, so that the people have like a picture in their mind. Whoa, this is coming. And again, it's interesting you say that. I see what you're saying. He's being straightforward in his poetry. He's not talking about, this means something spiritual or this means something else. It's these troops are coming. Let me paint you a picture.
Like raw poetry or something.
Yes, let me paint you this picture of the doom that is coming to Nineveh because they're terrible people, and then kind of even dovetail into what I mentioned earlier about even the servants are going to be wailing like birds, and which again is it's not a symbolism for something. He's trying to vividly describe this doom. I like that. That's very interesting. That is, I hadn't thought of it in that way.
It's so descriptive.
Yeah.
Like you read this and you know what's going on. It's like you're there.
Yeah. It's not, and we don't have to guess about things. I mean, he literally is describing, and the way they even printed in the Bible in short phrases. It's like a pool. It's draining away. No one's turning back. The silver is plundered. The gold is plundered. Wealth is gone. And so you understand that this rich empire, this city, is going away.
It's more like watching a movie or something than it is reading. It's so vividly accurate.
And he punctuates it, and I had this circled in my Bible in verse 13, where God says, "I am against you," declares the Lord Almighty. So in case you forgot who's going to do this, in case you forgot who's in charge, in case you forgot who it is that is decreeing this, it's Yahweh, the Lord of hosts. It's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He's bringing this, and you are not going to get out of it. And all of that poetry, all that, even the talk in 11 and 12 about the lion's den and the lions. I mean, it's all just God's bringing it all down.
Earlier it's a little more poetic, where it's like you were like a pool of water.
Yes.
Throughout her days, talking about Nineveh.
Yes.
So that's
verse 8,
pretty poetic, but it's still, it's like like what he means. Like it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I appreciate it in that sometimes, especially maybe apocalyptic literature, something like that, something means something else. And it doesn't that's not that here. This is
Not so
he
much.
is yeah, he is laying it out. Your strength is going to drain away, you're going to lose all your money.
Well,
You
all
know,
the
you're
prophets seem to bounce off each other when it comes to the biblical stuff,
mhm.
but that might be due to the fact that it's like God speaking to him.
There is a consistent author even though it's
Yeah.
different humans penning it, yeah. I also noticed, I know this goes into chapter 3, but that same phrase in verse in 2:13, I am against you, is also mentioned in 3:5, where I am against you. And in a weird way, I almost wish, and I know he says this in chapter 1 and chapter 2 to Israel, he says, I am with you, but he doesn't actually say that. It would have been kind of a neat parallel for God to say to the people of Israel, I am with you. And then twice he says to Nineveh, I am against you. Like, he doesn't do that, but that would have been because that's clearly the message. I mean, even the last chapter, we had our little devotion. I had titled it, God is on the side of his people. I mean, he's absolutely communicating that. And here in this chapter, he's saying, I am against you. And I wasn't sure. I didn't look up the Hebrew if the I am against you is if there's a play on words there with I am, but I did notice that phrase about how he's against them.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting.
No, it's
That
powerful.
that power. And again, here I started out saying, oh, I didn't get much from it, but it's absolutely it's a chapter of the Bible. It's powerful.